morning, everyone. See, we've got a lot of people already signed on, which is great. It's only 1 minute after 11. We have a lot of content today being brought to you by Wendy. So I'm gonna get started. We may have a couple more people hop on as I begin. But welcome to our third session of our Community and Mental Wellness Coffee Chat series. I'm Rebecca Baldwin. I'm the Executive Director of Saratoga Center for the Family. I have my coffee this morning. You'll see me drinking it. It's the only way that I stay awake these days. That and sunshine and walking. Those are my three coping mechanisms. Wendy will have to tell me if they're appropriate as she gets into her presentation. But I am here with Wendy Tedesco. She is our Clinical Director of Community and Clinic-Based Programming. Wendy is a licensed clinical social worker who has over 35 years of clinical experience working with children, adolescents, and adults who have experienced trauma. And she has extensive training in multiple evidence-based trauma-informed treatment models. So Wendy has put together a presentation for us this morning, specifically focused towards adults and coping during the COVID-19 public health crisis. I think that will be helpful for all of us during this time. A quick couple of housekeeping items for anybody who has not been with us before on these webinars. We will utilize the Q&A box down at the bottom of your screen. If you can't see it, you kind of have to hover your mouse over the bottom of your screen and it will appear, the Q&A. If you have questions that you would like for Wendy to answer as she's going through her presentation, she will try to answer as many of your questions as possible. We also, I think we'll probably have time at the end to have a little discussion if anybody has questions after she's finished. But if any questions come up for you afterwards or anything that we don't get to answer, you can always contact us at the center and we're happy to discuss things further. Also, this webinar is being recorded and we will post it on our website once we're done. So that it's available for anybody to watch again. Wendy also has a full version of her PowerPoint, which I'll only be showing you select slides from, and that will go on to our website as well so that you can utilize that as a resource in the future. So keep your eye out for future webinars as well. Those are coming up. We're going to continue providing more deep dives into some of these coping mechanisms. Next week is going to specifically be on mindfulness. But without further ado, this week, coping during COVID-19, I will welcome Wendy to talk to us about some positive pandemic coping skills.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yes, welcome to our Memorial Day weekend part of the series, to our coffee chat. Although I would like to say, everybody knows me, knows I'm a confirmed tea drinker, so it's the coffee and tea chat today. So this is a mouthful, but coping during COVID-19, positive pandemic coping skills for adults. Now, when I say adults, you know, there's lots of things in here that obviously children can enjoy with you. It's not specifically only for adults, but it's aimed at, or toward people who are also out in the world working as well. Okay. So before we actually get into any type of specific coping strategies, there's a couple of things to understand about coping and why we need to cope. You know, coping kind of gets a bad rap, but it also is something. I'm a therapist at the center as well as the director, one of the directors. And so coping is bandied about a lot. We use the word coping a lot, but where does it come from? Why do we need to cope with things? So kind of going back, you think about some of the things we're experiencing right now. One of them is fear. And fear is a reaction to a present danger in your environment. You know, if you see one of our colleagues saw a black bear in her backyard, I don't know if she was afraid, but that might bring some fear to you because it's a present danger in your environment. Different though is anxiety, and anxiety is the anticipation of some potential threat in the future. It may not be right now, but we're anticipating something, and that tends to be very difficult for people to feel, to cope with. So with this pandemic, I think there's both fear and anxiety happening at the same time, which can lead to some pretty negative experiences and outcomes for both our mind, our body, and our spirit, actually. So if you think about coping, and we'll try to think about this in a positive coping, is a way to deal successfully with, you know, difficult situations. And human beings can use things like creativity, imagination, determination. And you've seen that over and over again, if you know, with scientists and people coming up with novel way of doing things that they haven't been able to do before. So we actually are very adaptive. We actually make up our own coping mechanisms as we go along. So we have that going for us as human beings. But coping can also be difficult depending on the nature and degree of the problem you're dealing with. So if you're dealing with, you know, somebody who's sick from COVID, or somebody who's passed on from COVID, and you know, the stress on your family can be very difficult. So there's different levels of coping that are required for different things. And for some people, if it gets, you know, somewhat to the point where you can't do it yourself, or with the people around you, you may want to seek some professional help at some point. So I like this quote by Andy Stanley. It says, "Wherever there is fear, there is great opportunity. Wherever there is great fear, there is great opportunity." So that gives us some kind of a positive feeling about, you know, what we can expect. Like, don't count human beings out. We can get through this, right? So a couple more things before we go sailing down the, you know, the coping road, to think about before you decide what you're doing as far as your own coping strategies. So there's two different type of coping strategies. And this is a little psycho-ed, but you know, just bear with me for a few minutes. So the one that is most negative is the avoidant coping strategies. These are generally seen as sort of unhealthy and unconscious ways to deal with things. We try to, you know, we're trying to move away from the stressor, but it only helps in a short term. You know, when we don't acknowledge what we're feeling or thinking, or we ignore or deny the problems, they will soon return. So examples are, you know, things like over-reliance on alcohol, drugs, binge eating, internet or gaming addiction, compulsions, any type of like risk-taking, and at its darkest level, things like self-harming or, you know, suicide attempts. Okay, these things distract from the stressor, but they don't resolve the stressor. They continue to have negative effects on our system, and then you're adding the alcohol problem on top of the original stressor. And none of these things, avoidant coping skills, don't help us build any permanent skills. The positive ones are what they call active coping skills. So here, they're positive because they help us recognize or be aware of the stressors. Like, acknowledging stressors are incredibly important. So we want to make conscious attempts to reduce them, and this will help us build those lasting skills that can be used over and over again. And the more you use them, the better they get, because you're carving new pathways in your brain to help you calm down. So with increased use, you get increased positive effect. And even if something else comes up in the future, you can use those same coping mechanisms to work on those new stressors. And this is a new stressor for all of us, that's for sure. Also, just kind of further breaking it down, when you look at, you know, active coping strategies, there's problems focused and there's emotion focused. So problem focused strategies are active things that we can do to reduce stress. So let's say you wake up and you have a terrible backache. because, you know, you're stressed and things are just whatever. And you do your morning stretches. And that's an active thing you do to relieve that stress on your back. Also, the motion focus helps you to realize, why am I so stressed? What is it affecting me? And it helps you handle the feelings of distress that result from that stressor, which maybe COVID, it may be teaching your children at home, trying to work from home, you know, trying to take care of family members at home. But the best coping strategies we're going to talk about today incorporate both problem and emotion focused types. So if you can do both at the same time, you're kind of getting a 2-for-1 deal when you talk about strategies. Okay. So moving on, this is our first slide up that Rebecca is going to be showing you. This is not what coping stands for. Okay. Coffee, Oreos, potato chips, and energy drinks. Don't let these be your 4 food groups, okay? And we all know that, right? This isn't like I'm telling you anything you don't already know. But there's a reason why we tend to do that stuff. I tend to go toward that because we're looking, when we're stressed, we're looking for fast energy, which energy drinks and coffee give you caffeine. You know, Oreos give you lots of sugar, because our bodies think we need a lot of power to like move forward with these things if there's a threat in the environment. But when it's anxiety, there is no active threat, so you don't get to run, you know, away from the, you know, the saber-toothed tiger like our ancestors did. So these are not effective coping strategies. Always pretty fun to look at it that way, because sometimes that is our meals of the day, right? Unfortunately. And we'll get to talk about food in just a minute, a little bit more. So the best coping strategies are also ones that you enjoy, okay? This shouldn't be arduous. Things that bring you joy, that you look forward to and you don't dread it. You know, for example, just because, you know your diet needs some work, like if that was your diet that screened before, it needs some work, right? Don't set upon a path of total transformation during a pandemic quarantine. You aim for some small changes over a period of time. And I'm going to keep saying this with no guilt. Don't add guilt to your plate. You know, when you're eating, don't add guilt to your plate. And that is I'm going to say that over and over and over again. No guilt allowed with coping. So when you think again about what type of coping strategies to explore for yourself, if you want to add some more, you want to find something you like, figure out your own preferences and tolerances for adopting new behavior. Are you one of those people like, oh, I'm setting out and I will be absolutely disciplined. I will not, I will run 4 miles a day and eat healthy. And I will do that from this to the last breath when I'm 99. But that's not always the best way to figure out what's best for you. So think about what's most concerning you right now. What's bubbling up for you? This is what you might talk about in therapy. Where does your stress in your body live? I was just talking about a backache. Do you get headaches? Do you have nightmares? Are you grinding your teeth at night? Where is your stress in your body living? We want to react to that, okay? Are there particularly negative thoughts or behaviors you want to address in your life? And we're going to have, by the way, a webinar, I think it's on the 12th of June. Unless we move some of those around, I'm not sure. It's called Self-Care for Caregivers. I don't know if that's the title, but we're going to be talking more about specifically caregivers. So you can explore that topic a little bit more in one of our future webinars. Okay. So the other couple things to think about when you're deciding on your coping strategies, a good rule of thumb is to start with 2 new coping strategies only. Don't try to do 5, don't try to do 9,000 things a day. Try to do 2 at a time, 2 in one period of time. So when trying to decide, just consider the duration of the task. Like, a puzzle is going to take many hours, but that may be something you do 5 minutes at a time. If you think you're going to sit down and finish in one night, that might be too much. How much time do you have to devote to a new skill? If you're going to start running, you're not going to start running 5 miles the first day. You're going to start with maybe walking and then a little running and then a walking run and things like that. So figure out how much time you have. Let's talk about the intensity of your coping skills. What does that mean? Well, for instance, watching clouds drift by and on your lawn for 5 minutes right now at this time of year is much less of a time commitment and less intense than starting, cooking healthy every day or ridding your entire house of junk in a weekend. That would be lovely, but that's probably overreaching, and you're going to be disappointed, and then it's not really a coping mechanism. You might feel like in the planning stage, and this is great, I get all this, and then it doesn't work out that way. So think small. When you're doing coping strategies, think small to start, right? And then this is my own, but slow the roll. Don't leap into a million things. Try to, be very kind to yourself. Find a good place to start. Slow, gradual adoption of any type of coping strategies will result in more satisfying experience. And like I said, no guilt allowed. We're not allowed to feel guilt about coping strategies. That's exactly the opposite of what you should be doing. If guilt's coming up, then you need to, rethink and redo your strategies. Okay, so then we're going to get into this a little bit more specifics, and some of you you're going to know, and some of you is like, oh my God, I've heard this a million times. So there's some you might eye roll at, but there's some that might give you some pause and some things to think about when you're making decisions about, what I need. I know I need something because I'm just really wound up and exhausted all the time. What do I need? So how do we cope in uncertain times like we are in right now? So let's start to take a look at some things. So I put this one up first. You might have said, oh, she's going to say that diet thing again. No. First one, be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself both internally and the things you say about yourself. And I love this author. If you've never been to her website, it's called sweatpantsandcoffee.com. It's hysterical. So if you want a little mode of levity, and that's a good coping skill of itself, go in there. She's got lots of these. So I love this one. Note to self: no matter what, no matter how hard or painful or awkward or scary the situation, all you can really do is show up as yourself. So be the selfiest self you can be, the most you, the truest you. You will figure it out, you magnificent mess you. So I love her stuff. I find that I use it a lot. So just remember to be kind to yourself first and foremost. It doesn't take any money. It doesn't take any investment. It just is to be kind to yourself. Whether, yes, now I'm going to talk about moving more. I'm not talking about a huge exercise thing because I am not a huge exercise person. I do walk a lot because I find that it does release a lot of stress. So you want to find something that releases stress. So whether that's an actual exercise routine, some people are absolutely committed, and that's fabulous. That's great. But you can just do some dancing while you're cleaning, put on your favorite music, turn it up loud, aggravate your neighbors, who cares? Swaying to the music. If you see something, really nice, stretching, gardening, playing bongos, yoga, or just go for a walk around your neighborhood. Moving is really necessary for our health and well-being. Start with something small. I'm going to say it a million times. 5 minutes of stretching, getting up from your chair, or if you have mobility issues, you can find exercise routines that can be done, basically with a bar or a chair behind you, or you're sitting in a chair. So we also have one on our website. It's gentle stretching. One of our therapists, Vicki Bronstein, has done, which is really, really good. I couldn't believe the relief I got in my neck from doing her routine. It was really, really astounding. So, check that out, or just go to YouTube. And YouTube is like the best invention ever, right? As long as you know what you're looking for. Okay. So this is a little, I don't know how much you can see in your own homes or whatever, but this is what Americans are eating. This is what our diets look like. For a year. And it's an American diet. We know that we get pushed a lot of advertisement for fast food, and, we don't have a lot of time, so we use that. But some of the startling things are that, the average height of a man is 5'9" in the United States, but the average weight is 190. And the average height for a woman is 5'4", and the average weight is 64, which is beyond what is supposed to be fit and healthy. So this is just a little bit of a, visual. And in the very corner, you can see it says you consume 2,700 calories a day. So, it just kind of reminds us that, hey, a lot of this is being pushed at us and we don't have to receive it all the advertisements for all the goodies and stuff like that. So you don't see commercials for, well, you could see commercials for orange juice, but not usually for like, oh, here's a grapefruit sitting on the table, we're going to advertise it. That's not what you see. You see advertisements for chips and cereals and things. So, okay, so for the health of it, pick one day or one meal and try something new and pack it with nutrition. So what I'm going to tell you is, if you eat one out of your 3 or whatever meals a day that's packed with nutrition, you got your nutrition in for the day. Even if you fall off the wagon, do have Oreos and potato chips for lunch and dinner, at least you had, a smoothie with all kinds of great stuff in there, with some protein and fiber and things like that. And we're also going to have somebody doing some things more about healthy. We have one of our staff is kind of a guru when it comes to smoothies. So just pack one meal a day with all kinds of protein and nutrition. And then you'll know, like, okay, I didn't do great the whole rest of the day, but at least I got it in for that meal. Eat the rainbow. You've heard that a million times. Plus, it's pretty to make really pretty salads. And one last thing, slow down. Meals are not races. Although we were so used to racing out the door, racing our kids to get into the bus stop, eating in the car, things like that. Maybe now we can just slow down and savor things, the taste, the smell, the textures of food. You don't have to read your emails while you're eating either. Okay, I'm telling everybody not to do that. I'm relieving you from that stress. Okay, this is my prescription for relaxation. So take 2 twice a day for 5 to 15 minutes. So relaxation, it's very important. We always say, oh, I want to go home and relax. Oh, I want to relax this weekend. Or when somebody's upset, they say, hey, just relax, right? So you hear that a lot. It's bandied about, he says it. So there's ways that we teach people as therapists, but there's also ways you can just do things yourself. There's some really cool progressive muscle relaxation exercise where you tense muscles and release them. Just start to feel when you're really tense. You can adopt one new yoga pose. You can try a guided meditation, which sometimes are not necessarily, a physical thing, but it will help you relax. And we're going to have some of those in our mindfulness presentation in the next couple of weeks. Watch the moon, stargaze, cloud gaze, walk in nature, take a bath, deep breathing exercises. I'm not going to go too much into deep breathing exercises. That'll probably be covered somewhere down the road too. But there's lots of different ways to deep breathe. And deep breathing helps relieve anxiety. That's the number one thing. It helps you feel calm throughout your whole body because your deep breathing helps send a signal to your brain that you're calm and things are not that bad. Okay, that there's not a saber-toothed tiger following you. Also, there's a couple things I really like. There's on YouTube, I make a couple recommendations. The Honest Guys, it's called The Honest Guys. It's nature videos with relaxation and guided meditations. They sound like they're like a car dealership, but no, they're people from either Australia or New Zealand. I'm not really sure, but I can tell by the accent they're from down under. There's also the phone apps such as Calm. You can get Calm for a week for free. See if you like it. And then I know it's, it might be a little expensive for people, but it's $69.99 for a year. And I'm not a paid spokesperson, just saying. There's the Breathe app, or one of my new favorite ones, websites to explore is called The Path to, and the number 2, succeed.com. So the path to succeed.com for many, many more ideas on that topic. Okay. And like I said, a lot of these are going to be a little deep down dive in coming weeks. Okay. The next one is one you're also probably eye roll for some people, but it really helps others. Journaling or writing. Now, when I say this, try longhand script or writing. it might be a lost art, and they don't even teach handwriting, I don't think, in high school. I don't even know if they do, but I know that a lot of people are finding out that they don't really know how to do handwriting anymore. But even if you're printing, it's superior to typing or texting because it's closer to a more natural emotional connection to your thoughts and feelings as you go through your day. I don't know what it is, but there's been studies that prove that handwriting is actually far superior to texting or typing. Plus, we do that all day long, right? So spend 5 minutes, maybe doing that one day. A variation, write a letter to a friend. I've seen that some kids are asking nursing home folks if they want to be pen pals. I think it's awesome, like actual writing them little cards and letters. I think that's wonderful. It also gives you the opportunity to use that pretty stationery with everybody knows they have in the back of some cupboard or a desk or in their desk drawer. You have pretty stationery you've never used. Maybe you got it for your wedding 20 years ago or whatever, but it gives you an opportunity to use it. So think about that as one of our choices. All right, so this is also very important. Staying in touch with others. We're human beings and we thrive on connectivity. We're not meant to cope in isolation. In fact, the reptile brain, we talk about this a lot in therapy, it's the oldest part of our brain. It controls the fight, flight, and freeze response. And it gets activated when you are isolated for any period of time. There's a really good reason for that. Back when we were hunter and gatherers, being alone, being cut off from your tribe left you vulnerable to attacks by predators. So our brains still connect isolation with anxiety, even if there's not a present threat. This is particularly important to think about in the time of COVID-19, when we feel both that threat and a danger. That fear and anxiety, like I said, it comes back up again. So staying connected with others is very important. So don't throw your eyes at this, but there's nothing wrong with having a Zoom happy hour or a tea party or a Netflix, movie night with your friends. You can watch the same movie at the same time, Google Hangouts, if there's, Google Meets, or just to chat with your friends. We're human, we're social animals. We need to connect with others to flourish. We need mutual support and really encouragement. Mutually encourage each other because we're all in this together. So all we can do is mutually encourage it. There's nobody outside looking into this pandemic. We're all in it. So be inventive. Maybe you want to cook or sew or bedazzle something, with your friend on FaceTime or Skype. I'm sure people are quilting together, whatever your passions are. And don't forget to have physical touch with people. From the minute we're born, physical touch is incredibly important in especially our early development under the age of 3. If we don't get that, you're paying for it for the rest of your life. But most of us have gotten that. And how we care for our children, we want to care for ourselves. So don't forget to hug and snuggle on the couch to watch a movie or just talking. Even with those ornery teenagers, they will roll their eyes and, suck their tongues. So, oh, mom, but they'll remember, that was a time when I was especially close to my parents. So I think that's a good thing always. All right. So, just talking about these things, let's look at clouds. It's time together. It's perfecting your imagination. Okay, so, and the one in the bottom, if you can't see it, is like a cat. It's very funny. It looks like a cloud, but it's a cat. And I don't know how else to say it. It's just really funny. So I thought it was a very cute little meme to add to our thing. So we'll keep that up for a minute. So think about spending time in the natural environment, okay? The air is so much cleaner. The birds are, well, it's springtime, so there's lots of birds, but the birds are just incredible. And just, animals are coming out. They're finding that they can be more in the rest of the environment because we're not driving on roads as much and things like that. So you might walk through a park. I'm planning on a garden this weekend. A lot of people probably are going to be outside doing stuff. We're just sitting quietly in your yard with your morning tea or coffee and just listening to the sounds of nature. Okay, just listening. So these are 2 exercises I'm going to recommend. One of them is just to sit quietly in your backyard or on the grass and identify 5 things you can see. And you might say like, okay, let me find 5 yellow things I can see, or 5, right now green is, you know, pervasive color, but you know, just in your environment, do you see other, you know, other colors? So 5 things you can see, 4 different things you can hear. It's lots of things to hear right now, right? 3 things you smell, 2 things that you can touch. You know, maybe it's, you know, the grass, or it's your sweater. And then you end with 1 statement of gratitude for the natural world. With less cars and planes, everything's cleaner. We should just be grateful that that's one of the positive things that's coming out of this pandemic. Exercise number 2, sit on a grassy surface or near a garden and look down at nature in miniature for 5 minutes. With the curiosity of your childhood, like when you used to sit and just like look at ants walking around. And when you get to your garden and you sit down and you just sit and be quiet and look, your gardens are very active. There's a lot going on down there. And then look up at the sky, see the clouds moving through your field of vision, and think about being part of the larger world. Okay, so we're during both of these, you remain calm, practicing deep breathing while you move through the exercises. So you're going to, one exercise you're going down and one you're getting up. Okay, so those are a couple of things to suggest. Aromatherapy. Oh, it sounds very new agey, but sense of smell is one of our 5 senses, and is the one most closely tied to our memories and can aid in calming the mind and body. So I brought a little prop today. This is one of my favorite finds. This is Love, Beauty, and Planet. Again, I'm not getting paid by this, but these are available at Hannaford. It is a big bar. It lasts a long time. It's got argan oil and lavender in it. And, you know, lavender is a very calming thing. It's called Relaxing Rain. But there's other scents. This one, I'll just sit here and smell it. It just makes me calm. But this is a really nice soap if you want to go find it. I guess it's called Love, Beauty, and Planet is the name. You know, try essential oils, lighting a candle, incense, you know, if you can. You know, some people can't really do that. But even just going outside right now, my lilac bushes are huge and they just smell like heaven. It's just lovely to smell in the air. In the other parts of the year, you can go to the garden shop at, you know, Price Chopper and just smell some of the flowers there. You know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with just putting your hands in the flowers and smelling them. So aroma, use your nose. Okay, this is kind of fun. This is our next slide that our host, Rebecca, is going to show. Now this says self-care for social workers. Now, that's because I'm a social worker by profession, but self-care for teachers, self-care for, you know, first responders or nurses or whoever, anybody working at home, anybody doing anything. So, you know, following a balanced diet, we talked about exercising, using mindfulness, screaming into a pillow, or try crying while eating cake over a sink. That's one of my favorites. Made me laugh when I saw it. I had to bring it to you guys so you could laugh too. And that brings me to my next point about, is coping a laughing matter? It's a very, you know, laughing and humor is a guaranteed way to unwind. We'll have another blog. We're going to have a blog, a written blog devoted solely to the benefits of humor. But there was a study done at Loma Linda University, shows that older adults, when they did a memory test before and after, the people who watched a short 15-minute funny videos did significantly better on a memory test and had significantly lower levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, than the control group. There's tons of studies, but just a few of them. You know, another study found that laughter protects against heart disease. It actually engages all your core muscles, which we're always saying we want to develop. And a study at Vanderbilt University found that 15 minutes of laughter burns 40 calories. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it might burn off one of those Oreos. But there's all kinds of stuff on the, you know, on the internet, you know, all kinds of things, memes, comics, community, you know, comedy shows. There's a great book that I'm just recommending by David Sedaris, this Sedaris. He's a very funny author. One of my favorites is, the book is titled Me Talk Pretty One Day. And it's just hysterical from beginning to end. So if you're looking, go to Audible or just get the hardcover, probably really inexpensive now on Amazon. It's a great book if you want to laugh, okay? Spend some time laughing, smiling. Music, okay, music. Music is a pretty international language. We might not all like the same music, but music does, they calms the Sabbath breast, I guess, that's an old saying. So either listening to music or making, some people might be artistic, musically, might be very, fine, use it. It may not mean that you want to start learning to play the piano right now. Maybe you want to. There's lots of music apps. Spotify, Pandora are my absolute go-to to, unwind when I used to drive home from work, listen to Spotify or listen to an audiobook. But anyways, with your kids, you could drag out like an old karaoke machine you might have in your attic, have some fun, music nights. Music inspires, it gives rise to dancing, smiling, relaxing, emotional connection to earlier times in your life. Like, oh, I love that song. I remember where I was when I heard that song the first time. Belt out the tune, even if you can't sing, who cares? You're not on The Voice. You know what I mean? Just, in your shower, in a walk, when cleaning especially, that's a really good one. Music. Everybody loves music of some type. Okay, so this one is called Learn New Things. Now, I've heard these commercials like, oh, I decided to learn Spanish, in the next 10 weeks or whatever. But think learning with a small L. Don't plan on learning a language in 10 weeks unless it's really something you want to do. Learn things, using that part of your brain that learns things helps distract from anxiety. So you can't be really anxious and be concentrating on learning how to fold origami or something like that. So it requires the concentration on your part to complete, and it also gives you a sense of accomplishment that you learn something, like folding origami, something like that. Helping others, that's something you've been hearing a lot about, volunteerism and things like that, and social distancing. But helping others, there's lots and lots of research that helping others, boost your level of happiness, health, and your sense of well-being. Even if you just want to get your kids to donate toys or clean out your closet to donate to a shelter. I don't know how much shelters are taking right now, but you can box them up for the time when you can, go back and donate to a shelter. Get your kids involved will increase that feeling of, a well-being even more. So think about helping others in some small way. This is our next one that our lovely Rebecca is going to be showing. This is another Nancy Hoffman, Sweatpants and Coffee. Show kindness, gratitude, and love to yourself and others. Going back to this, really show kindness to yourself and others. So this one, note to self. When you are whizzing through your day and your body is full of stress, a good way to slow your galloping mind is to take one moment to be thankful, even for a tiny goodness. Gratitude anchors you to the present. Then you can jump back into your regularly scheduled chaos with a bit of calm in your heart. So that, bees wanted to join my presentation. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others, be grateful, show love and kindness. It really goes a long way. A little tiny bit, it doesn't cost you a thing, goes so far in improving relationships at home if it's stressful between people. Okay. So a couple things. This is about consciously turning off. This is maybe not, you don't usually see this on your normal, coping strategies lists that you can get anywhere. But with no commute time, for a lot of us, normal transition time has been cut off. So things that we used to do to sort of transition from work to home and home to work, between work time and home time gets blurry when you're working at home. So, also if you're the primary teacher for your child at home and also maybe caring for loved ones in your home, You know, this, you can feel like you're never turned off. You never switched off. Nothing for yourself to fill yourself back up. So if you're already in a helping profession like I am, you know, or you're a teacher or you talk all day, make sure you consciously take time to turn off and turn on an alternative activity that brings you joy. If you talk all day, find quiet time, purposefully not speaking for a long period of time. When I used to, you know, commute, I had quite a long commute. I would be quiet in the car. So that was my quiet time. But if you can't do that, find some time where you are just completely quiet, or draw or paint or doodle or color or watch birds, stargazing, reading, writing, poetry, journaling, anything you can think of, anything that brings you joy, and you're consciously turning things off. And maybe you could actually turn off your electronics for a while. All right, this is our next slide for you to see. You know you're suffering from it, people. We know this picture is something we have all experienced at some point or another. Even if you saw that thing about the Supreme Court, that might have been a good example of that. So we want to stop information overload, which means you like maybe consider turning off some of your loaded notifications or unsubscribe to some things. You know, pick 2 reputable sources for your updates and limit how much time you spend each day with the news. We often fall prey to this information overload. We feel guilty if we don't stay on top of everything. But human beings cannot process the amount of limitless information that comes at us all day. And remember this, it's a news reporter's job to grab your attention, push information at you. You didn't invite it in. They push it at you and keep you engaged in their station or their news thing. However, it is not, and I'm going to say this twice, it is not your job to absorb it all. It is not your job to absorb it all. We have control and we have to know when to disengage. Because the surge of available information out there, especially with the internet, can adversely affect your well-being. It affects your decision-making. This is all research-based, your innovation, your ability to be productive. So try a 24-hour news diet and measure your level of anxiety 1 to 10 at the beginning and 1 to 10 at the end. We do this a lot with our clients. You know, okay, so I just watched this news and about all these people dying and all this stuff, and it might come back and blah, blah, blah. And you're like at an 8 or a 9. You're like all tense and everything. Go on the news diet, see where you are at the end. I guarantee you will be less. So stay informed, but don't obsess, okay? That's the key, don't obsess. You can have some freedom from technology. I'm gonna give you some permissions here. Feel free to ignore information on the internet or notifications. You don't have to react to everything. Just because it comes in your inbox does not mean you have to do anything with it. Feel free to take action without all the facts on the internet. You can't achieve that level of information gathering anyways. So know when enough is enough, okay? So release yourself from information overload. Your inbox, your text messages, and social media are not allowed to tell you when to respond. I'm going to say that again. They are not allowed to tell you when to respond. So get rid of inbox anxiety, okay? Learn to skim, grab 2 points from any email, let go. Apply filters to your platforms if you can, so that can kind of get weeded out. You'll never even see it. And respond to all communication in 5 sentences or less. There has been proven that and I'm terrible. That's one of the things that I'm working on. I will go on and on and on forever. But they've proven by studies that within 5 sentences, you can get your entire point across, no matter what it is. Ooh, now we're gonna go back to peace, this beautiful, peaceful scene that I thought, oh, it's so beautiful. So think of restful places, okay? Now we're gonna get into that sort of emotion focus. We're almost done, but we're gonna turn a little bit more to that emotion focused strategies. Just sit still. Doesn't cost you any money. Doesn't cost a lot of time. Engage in deep breathing. You move inward to sort of explore your thoughts and feelings that come without judgment. Whatever they are, let them float away from you. If negative emotions arrive, don't push them away. Invite them in. See what they are, and then say, go on your way, negative emotions, you're done, okay? It's our urge to avoid negative emotions that keeps them in place, okay? If our feelings are unacknowledged, they can appear as physical symptoms. They're going to come out anyways because our feelings are expressed through our body. So they're going to come out as something else. Headaches, illness, sleep issues, nightmares, grinding your teeth, whatever. Once you explore your emotions, you sit with them for a moment, then you can imagine them flying away and being replaced by a warm light, okay? Something very comforting, okay? Because we all need comforting right now. It's a very scary time. So we're going to end on this. I love Winnie the Pooh. Love Winnie the Pooh. It's my favorite books as kids. So I love this one. So if you can't see, I'm going to read it to you. It says, "What day is it?" asked Pooh. "It's today," squeaked Piglet. "My favorite day," says Pooh. And then this is a lovely, lovely thing to end on. Most humans are never fully present in the now because unconsciously they believe that the next moment must be more important than this one. But then you miss your whole life, which is never not now. And that revelation for some people, to realize your life is only ever now. Okay, so that concludes, let me just put this down a little bit. That concludes my presentation on some coping strategies. And I don't know if there's I don't see any Q&A, but I see some chat stuff. So
Yeah, thank you, Wendy. I realized as you were going through that entire thing that I have experienced every single physical manifestation of stress and anxiety that you mentioned. And I also utilize all of the negative coping mechanisms, but I'm going to not feel guilty about my coffee addiction because should a saber-toothed tiger show up in Schuylerville, which I know can probably happen at any moment, I need the caffeine to outrun that thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give myself permission.
Absolutely. So there's no questions here. So yeah, I mean, Paul.
We do have a comment here.
Yeah.
They're asking, what coping do you recommend to those of us experience anxiety in the workplace because they have to return to the office during reopening? What kind of strategies can be done right in the workplace to deal with that anxiety, which I know is now kind of really on the rise because as we start to slowly roll out this reopening, everybody's kind of in this, heightened, what's going to happen? Am I safe?
Right.
Mode. Do you have suggestions about that?
Obviously, first and foremost, you have to, take the precautions that are recommended by the CDC. That's always number one. That will protect you the most and should bring down your anxiety. If everybody's wearing masks and they're, washing hands and things like that. So always observe whatever. And if there's something missing, I would say this, you have to be respectful, but if there's something missing, like people are able to come into your building without masks on, you might want to, very politely ask your supervisor, what is our agency or our company's, decisions about whether or not people should be wearing masks and coming in the building? What should we be doing? I would say before you go in, know what your agency policies are going to be before you go into the building. So you're informed. Information always calms people down. It's a lack of information that makes us kind of crazy. So if you feel like your agency hasn't addressed that, you can find your supervisor or somebody that you can politely ask about is it going to be on our website? Is it going to be on the doors? What are the measures the agency's taking? And then if you scroll back, deep breathing, if you get anxious when you go to work, you can do a lot of these things by yourself, social distancing, the deep breathing, go outside, take a moment to calm yourself, sit still, and those type of things. So you could still use a lot of these. These are not just household ones. These are any time of the day, any place. But I would start with finding out what your agency, your company is planning for reopening. Information will help you reduce your anxiety.
Yeah, I think having those conversations are really important. Like you said, I find that I am most anxious when I don't have the information or when I'm not communicating about, you know, to somebody else about my feelings or my concerns, and having that back and forth, because often, you know, there are things that are being done, or there is information that I don't have. And if I'm not, you know, getting that, then of course, you know, where you leave blanks there, you always kind of make the worst possible scenarios in your imagination. So it's always best to talk it out. And I think it really does help in the situation that we're all in it together. It's not just a personal situation that you're dealing with that nobody else is understanding. This is a global thing. And so it's, you know, everybody should be talking about it. And if we're not, then spark that conversation.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah. Do we have other questions? Go ahead, Wendy.
No, I was just saying that, you know, we're all in this together, and we're all going to have some level of, you know, working from home, working back, you know, back either whether you're back in a school or you're back in a building, you're back, you know, what is that going to look like? I think there's going to be changes, and it's never going to go back to exactly the way it was, I don't think, even just mindset wise. So information is powerful, and to have those discussions, you're right. You know, if you can have those discussions before it happens and you can get it clear, that's just going to help, I think, a little bit more. So.
Absolutely. Anybody else have any questions? I'll leave it open for a minute. We will post this up on our blog, which is on our website, for anybody who wants to utilize any of the resources that Wendy talked about today. I know she mentioned some videos and some books, and so we'll make sure to list those so that if you didn't get to write them down, you can refer back. And like I mentioned, or we mentioned a couple of times, next week we're doing a really deep dive into mindfulness practices and all different forms of mindfulness practices with one of our therapists, Tiffany St. Louis. So tune in next week if you're interested in that. And yeah, I hope that this was informative and helpful, and I thank you all for joining us again this week.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me to do this.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna sign off. Stay well, everybody.
We'll see you happy Memorial Day.